Hello, good day, my second year ID students enrolled in object-oriented programming. In this lecture video, we will talk about the introduction to Java, which we will cover processing Java program, which is a Java virtual machine, Java Integrated Development Environment or Java IDE, and we will take a look at a simple Java program. And the last part would be I would be giving you a demonstration on how to write the code, your simple Java program into the Java IDE, which is NetBeans. You can also follow me as I will be demonstrating the code. You can use other compiler. We have online compilers and other Java IDE. But in this demo, I will be using NetBeans. First, Java virtual machine or processing Java program. First, let's talk about what Java is. Java is a computer programming language that is concurrent, class-based, object-oriented, and specifically designed to have as few implementation dependencies as possible. Java was originally developed by James Gosling at Sun Microsystems, which has since merged into Oracle Corporation, and released in 1995 as a core component of Sun Microsystems, which is Java platform. The language derives much of its syntax from C and C++, but it has fewer low-level facilities than either of them. Java was originally designed for interactive television, but it was too advanced for the digital cable television industry at the time. The language was initially called Oak, after an oak tree that stood outside Gosling's office. It went by the name Green later, and it was later renamed Java from Java Coffee. Before Java, the World Wide Web was limited to the display of still images and texts. However, the incorporation of Java into the web page has made it capable of supporting animation, graphics, games, and a wide range of special effects. With the support of web, we can run Java program on someone else's computer access from the internet. Next, what is Java Virtual Machine? Before we can understand what Java Virtual Machine is, we need to know that computer is an electronic device that can only understand electronic signals. Text are identified with electronic pulses. So again, computer does not understand human languages. So if we instruct the computer what to do, we type in the keyboard, right? If we write our name, if we write a certain letter, example, we input A in the keyboard, that would not be understood directly but by our computer because it only understands electronic pulses. 5 volts represents 1 in binary and 0 volt represents 0. So let's take a look at this table. So I have provided here 4 characters, but there are really many and multiple characters in our keyboards, right? Each of them have its binary conversion. For example, A has a binary 011000001. This is an 8-bit computing, but processors today are capable of processing 64 bits at a time. So that's why if you notice, we have 64-bit applications. So example, we type in the word hello. It will be converted into binaries, each letter of it. Computers before are hardwired and can perform only one task. Say, for example, in a computer, we want to perform addition of 2 numbers. We will then need to have an assembly language following that step or order. So this assembly language has 4 steps. Store 1 at memory location, say A. Store 2 at memory location, say B. Add contents of location A and B. Then store result. So this is how you're going to arrange if we add just simple numbers, just two numbers, 1 and 2. Then it has to be converted into a machine code that your computer will understand. Assembler can turn this assembly language into a machine code. And now the computer understands what we want it to do, which is to add two numbers. Now that we understand assembly language, let's take a look at the process of the C language. So here, as an example again, we will print the sum of two numbers 1 and 2. In C language, we do it this way. Print F, open and close parentheses, 1 plus 2, then semicolon. But again, this can't be read by our computer, so it then needs a compiler. A compiler is a special program that processes statements written in a particular programming language and turns them into machine language or code that a computer processor uses. We have different compilers for different programming languages. We also have compiler for Python and compiler for Java, converting your lines of code into an assembly language. So with this, the compiler will then turn this line of code printf into an assembly language. Then we have assembler. Assembler will then turn the assembly language into binary codes. And now this time, the binary codes will then be processed with your computer's processor. And that's the time the computer understands what you want to do. So before, people need to buy separate compiler which convert printf command into native machine code. So if you're using Windows, you need to buy compiler that is compatible with your Intel processor. If you are using AMD processor for your computer, then you need to buy another compiler. Buying separate compilers is expensive with a chance of compatibility issues. So magpalit ka o compiler, it turns out when you use it, daghan siya issues. So it's really just a waste of resources. That's why Java Virtual Machine or Java language was born. If we have printf in C language, we have system.out.println in Java language. So if we add two numbers, we are just going to input system.out.println and in open and close parentheses, we have 1 plus 2 and then semicolon. This line of code or this code in Java language will be then saved into a .java file. Using Java compiler, the code is converted into an intermediate code called the bytecode with a .class file. Then it would then be understood only with a platform called Java Virtual Machine, which resides in the RAM of your operating system. With this, it will convert the bytecode into a native machine code. Once Java is compiled, it can run on all PC. Even if you're using Intel, it would be compatible. Even if you're using AMD, IBM, and so on. Not only that, but it can also run on mobile phones and electronic gadgets. So, build for Windows will run on Mac OS or any Linux as long as they have Java app installed. Next, Java Integrated Development Environment. When you program, you need to write your code somewhere, and that is known as text editor, right? Once a program is written, it is converted to a machine language. Computers, again, do not understand human language, so it has to be converted into binary codes or the electronic patterns. In Java Integrated Development Environment or IDE, we have here different applications. like NetBeans IDE, we also have Eclipse, and we also have other tools online. You can just search for Java compiler online. It would be easier if you use Java IDE. It can be able to debug your own program. It can be able to detect if your code is not the right code or if you have not followed the right syntax. So, naada na yung mag-red sa kilid and you can easily know asa dapit nga line of code nag-error. Next, simple Java program. This is a Java basic program. The highlighted code is multi-line comment. Multi-line comments in Java starts with forward slash asterisk and end with asterisk forward slash. You can comment multiple lines just by placing them between those. It is a part of your code that will be ignored by the Java compiler. It served as a guide or for your documentation, and you can write what your code is for here. Next is we have a class. Java is an object-oriented programming language. Everything in Java is associated with classes and objects along with its attributes and methods. When you create a Java project, class will also be created. If you name your Java project example.java, by default your class name will be named example, as what we can see here. So I didn't change the class name as I've created the Java project, but you can also change this. This line here is called single line comment. Single line comment starts with 2 forward slashes. Any text between forward slashes and the end of the line is ignored by Java, or it will not be executed, just like multi-line comments. Next is public. This one right here is what we call access specifier, which allows control of the visibility of class members. When we set our method to public, it may be accessed by code outside the class in which it is declared and be viewed by other classes. So you are allowing your method that you have set to public to be visible outside of its class. The opposite of public is private, which prevents a member from being used by code defined outside of its class. So if we set a certain method to private, then it cannot be accessed by any class outside of where it is declared. Next is static. Static allows main method to be called without having to instantiate a particular instance of the class. Don't worry about this now. As long as we know the right syntax, then we are good. And we will talk about it as we go along our topic. Next is void. Void tells the computer that main method or a function does not return a value. Void means null. Next, we have main method. Java main method is the entry point of any Java program. So this is where your program actually starts, and it must be declared as public. Kibali, it is the door to your program. Without the main method, then your program will not run. Next is string args. String args declares a parameter named args. Whenever you run a Java program with command prompt or you want to give command line arguments, then string with square brackets args is used. So basically, it takes input from you via command lines. If you don't use command line arguments, then it has no purpose to your code. Then inside of your main method, muna din inyong line of code. So this code will display, this is a simple Java program. And always remember that statement ends with a semicolon. And please take note that Java is case sensitive. Now I am here in the NetBeans IDE. To start with, we are going to create a Java project. We can click File, then New Project, or we can click the shortcut here with the folder and plus icon. We have here Java with Maven, Java with Gradle, and Java with Ant. But as of this moment, we are going to use Java with Ant because Ant is commonly used on Java-based projects. Let's click Java application and click Next. We can write here any project name that we like to name. Let me have example. If you notice, every time we change our project name, the main class also changes. You can also specify different class name for your project name. If you don't want your main class to be the same with your project name, then you can specify it here. Now let's click Finish. Then we have here our code. We don't need this, so we can delete this. We don't need this also because these are just multi-line comments. All right, now let's follow our example. We are going to create our own multi-line comment. So to start with, we have forward slash, then asterisk. And we notice here that our lines of code after that turn to gray. It is an indicator that all the lines in gray should be ignored by our compiler. But we don't want to do that because we have their public static void main. Now, it's important that we close it. And inside here will be our multi-line comment. So this is a Java program. This is saved as example.java. We can use this to describe what program are we going to do. Next is public static void main string args. So we need to set our main method as public. And please don't change anything of this. Inside of our main method, we can write here our lines of code. As we can see here, we have another comment, which is a single line comment. So after the double forward slashes, our statement will be ignored. As a tradition, especially when we are new to learning a language, let's create our first Java project and display hello world. In Java, we have system.out.println, and in close with this parenthesis will be the one that we want to output or display. So I'd like to write in here, hello world. Notice as I've typed, it suggested methods for us to use. That's why it's important and very handy to use IDE such as this, because aside from it debugs, it also suggests methods for us to use. Next is we can build our project. So build successful, it means our code and our program is okay. Then let's run by clicking the play button. And here is the output. It says hello world. One more thing, if you are curious of where example.java is, you can click the plus button here so we can see the subfolders. The name example with a coffee icon is our Java project. Then we have here source packages. And we have here our class, which is example. So whatever your class is, it will be named exactly the same name in this folder. Then click plus again, and there we can see example.java file. So I think that's it. Go ahead and explore more and create your lines of code inside public static void main string args. Until next time, thank you for listening.